these nickel and dime changes, trying to reform a couple of laws so that maybe something somewhere down the road will be done better somewhere in the future. I think, yes, it's important, but I would also say it's even more important. And it will help inspire more confidence if we can show that steps are being taken to help make people whole who have been so severely damaged, them and their family.
Carter Page, great to have you back on American Thought Leaders.
Great to be with you too, yeah.
So, you know, it's been a little while since we talked, and I think when we talked many, many months ago, this was before, I think, the Mueller report, before the IG report. We've learned a lot more officially about you and about certain FISA applications that were put out about you since. I want to talk a little bit about that. You know, so what do you think the significance of the IG report was for you? I mean, in all respects.
Well, the biggest and the most dramatic element was just the severe wrongdoing that was done by the U.S. intelligence community, but also by operatives of the Democrat Party and all the damage that they did to the Trump campaign, and which then continued throughout the Trump transition and through the early years of his administration. And so this offers a pretty unique window. It's an impartial, or it's a partial window, okay. And it's only slightly cracked. You know, there's they talk a lot about half-truths, and unfortunately, you know, many of the people they interviewed, many people within the U.S. Department of Justice. They tried to interview some others, and they often refused. But you know, unfortunately, several of these people have been known for what they describe as lack of candor. You know, people not being entirely honest, and this is sort of perpetuated the same problem we've had for many years. So yes, I mean, the headline is that there were 17 errors and omissions, and I think, you know, as Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham has said previously, these details are ugly and damning. That's absolutely true. However, there's so much more beyond that, which we still need to keep drilling down to the bottom of that. So that's what I'm in the process of trying to help people understand, and I'm working a lot on that right now.
Well, to your point, you know, I think Horowitz in testimony, if I recall, it was a very powerful statement. He said it's somewhere on a spectrum of gross, one side was gross incompetence, the other side was intentionality. But I'm not determining. I mean, he didn't say this exactly, but I'm not saying which it is.
Yes.
You can kind of you can figure that out for yourself.
And this is sort of where the firsthand experience. Unfortunately, and it's written in there that, you know, I offered to spend time with Mr. Horowitz and his team, and unfortunately was never given that opportunity. So part of what I'm doing now is trying to expose some of these additional details which were omitted even in that subsequent document, which came out in December, and you know, some of the ongoing investigations which have been done in Congress. So I think there's a lot more that needs to be said. And to your point, not only, you know, I personally have experienced a lot of intentional actions, you know, just based on the comparison between what has been said thus far and what has been continued to, not only the false submissions to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, but also, you know, within the Inspector General report itself. You know, it's just an incomplete story, and I think the time has come to really show the full story.
Well, so why don't we do a little bit of that? You know, what elements of the story, what pieces of the puzzle can you add? Would you like to add at this point?
Well, I'm in the process of finishing a book,
yes.
which will be published in August. And
yes.
So, you know, I have a lot more to say on that, and you know, there's only so much I want to talk about at this juncture. But you know, I'm in the process of completing that, and it'll be good to, you know, have these discussions. later this year, because unfortunately what we saw in the summer of 2016 during the conventions was really serious election interference, where the Democrat Party was pumping these falsehoods through their network of consultants, their law firm and their consultants with ties into the intelligence community. They were trying to pump it out to the media, first of all, but also submitting these falsehoods, this false information in conjunction with their consultants.
You're talking about the Steele dossier here, right?
Yes, as well as others.
And others, okay.
Absolutely. So, really, this term opposition research, it was really severe opposition, and it's unfortunate just given the total hysteria that we had, not only in the election interference of 2016, but also, again, through the Trump transition and the Trump, throughout the early years of the Trump administration. So, I think I'm very concerned that 2020 is not a repeat of that. So I think having this book out this summer will be a great step forward in terms of showing.
Well, you're keeping us in suspense, that's for sure. So, subsequent to the IG report, I think 2 of the FISA reauthorizations, right, were found to be improperly predicated. I guess you knew that already.
I knew that, and several members of Congress have just called this obvious fact, made it absolutely clear. Not only 2. I mean, this is another example of half-truths, right? They've admitted to the first or so for 2 of them being incorrect, and it's obvious on the face of it that they were all 4 of them. So, we know half of the problem. This is another perfect example of, needing to know the full story. And so I think, right now, it's just a very slow process with getting the truth out there. And that's, people have been dragging their feet throughout the last 3 years. And this, going on 4 years through the election interference in 2016. So the time has really come to help expose the full story. And so, and time is of the essence, because that was a severe election interference campaign paid for by the Democrats in conjunction with foreign actors in terms of this false intelligence that was pumped into our institutions in Washington. So we really need to urgently take steps forward to make sure that the full truth is exposed this time around.
Well, I'm hoping that I get you back really quick when that book comes out, because a lot of our viewers are really burning to know. So
well, and also, yeah. I think it raises an important point, because part of the issue and part of what I'm fighting back against is not only bad actors within the U.S. intelligence community and the Democrat Party, who they were, allies with, but also the media, and Epoch Times has been absolutely excellent with all of the incredible reporting going back.
Well, I appreciate that. Something just struck me. When is it that you learned that the fact that, your communications with Russians were actually on behalf of American intelligence, or at least in cooperation with American intelligence, that was omitted? When did you learn that in these or was
it's another example where the full story has been so far from the truth. If you look throughout, and I'll talk about this within the book. I had 5 meetings, over 10 hours of interrogations by the FBI in March of 2017.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I knew in a lot of these discussions that, again, it goes to the issue of bias, right? And I was trying to help them understand the truth. And unfortunately, there's a lot more details related to that. But I did get the sense that they really didn't get all of it, and I realized there were very serious bad actors who were working at higher levels within the U.S. government and within the U.S. intelligence community. So, it's just a matter of bringing these pieces together, but it's like a jigsaw puzzle where there's so much left out and so much false information, which has just confused people and created so much damage for the United States.
Well, now, I don't know if the world knows, because it certainly hasn't been reported on that much, but that this fact that you were working with U.S. intelligence, you were speaking with Russians, and you were, of course, disclosing you were doing it for a good reason.
Yes.
Right? When you learned that was hidden, what was your experience of that? That this fact, this obviously critical fact, had been misrepresented or omitted, right? That's I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. What was your feeling? What did you feel like?
My feeling, as it has always been, as we've talked about over the years, is a serious concern about the damage that it's done to the United States and our allies around the world. If we're starting with a base of completely false information, completely false assumptions, think about the damage this does not only to our justice system, but our national security policy. And if you look at all the negative impact that it had on President Trump throughout his early years, the early years of his administration, it's truly staggering.
So, based on what you know, of course, you're holding your cards very tight here to your chest. I understand. I'm sure there are good reasons for that. But what do you expect, based on the trajectory of what you're seeing? What do you expect will happen over the next, 6 months, let's say? Right.
Look, I'm pushing hard with Congress and trying to get the message out that they're talking about some reforms to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and legislation. I think the first thing, in terms of these little nickel and dime changes, which partially...
the markup is being delayed, right? Like Congressman Collins was...
Unfortunately, Chairman Nadler has, stonewalled once again.
But you're saying even this is a small thing.
Well, that's a small thing. Unfortunately, the impact that it's had on so many innocent Americans. I think back, in the, there was this Korematsu case in the Supreme Court back in the 1940s. And, it was serious injustices which were done against innocent Americans. And in 1988, President Reagan signed into law a legislation which gave reparations to all the innocent people whose lives were so severely damaged. I am calling for, right now, important steps forward to make sure that similar steps are taken at this juncture to help all of the innocent Americans whose lives were so disrupted by this complete hoax of an investigation. And to the extent that people don't want to support that, I think they should be on the record saying that they will not stand up for justice and civil liberties and the reestablishment thereof. These nickel and dime changes, trying to reform a couple of laws so that maybe something somewhere down the road will be done better somewhere in the future. I think, yes, it's important, but I would also say it's even more important, and it will help inspire more confidence if we can show that steps are being taken to help make people whole who have been so severely damaged, them and their family. Powerful place to finish up. I'm speechless. I'm even speechless. Well, I think unfortunately there's been a lot of words, and I think now is the time for action in 2020. So I'm doing everything in my power to do that, and I think this story, which I'm going to more fully expose within the coming months, will be an important step in that direction.
Well, I look forward to having you back, and it's great to have you.
You too, yeah. Appreciate it.